Hello, friend. Welcome to this week's episode of the Remarkable People Podcast. This week we have with us Kijuan Amey. Kijuan was a military man who was on his way to work on Cinco de Mayo, driving his motorcycle, and gets in an accident 55 miles per hour, where he not only has screws and bolts and plates and rods installed in his body after being in a coma for a month, but he loses his eyesight and vision completely. So, this episode, Kijuan talks about not just what he endured, but he also talks about how never give up, never make excuses. It's easy to want to buckle to the adversity, but how you can do it. He did it, and you can too. We talk about how he went skiing after the accident. When most people told him it was impossible, he's in Stowe, Vermont, downhill skiing. We talk about how he still plays drums to this day, and we talk about so much more. Kijuan is a keynote speaker, he's an author, he is a coach, and he has no sight and plenty of injuries, which you'll hear about. But what we want to make sure you understand is that for me, for Kijuan, for you, if we're still here and have breath in our life, then there's a reason why God has us here. And we want to live life to the fullest and to be able to have that peace and joy and not quit. So, whether it's you or someone you love, check out this remarkable episode now and forward it to your friends and family members who need it. He has powerful, not only story, but Kijuan drops 6 or 7 quotes that stopped me. I wrote them down. I'm putting them in the show notes for you so you can be inspired as well. So that's a long intro, but it's worth the time in this episode. Check it out now.
The Remarkable People Podcast. Check it out. The Remarkable People Podcast. Listen, do, repeat. For life. The Remarkable People Podcast.
Hey, Kijuan, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Man, I'm remarkable. I am looking forward to this show. Our listeners are looking forward to this show. But straight from you, the source, this episode is about you, your life, but what we can all glean from it and apply to our own to be even better humans and have more peace, more success, and just more power in our lives. So if you were to say, if you listen to my episode, I guarantee you this one thing. You might have 80 things by the time we're done with the show. But if you were going to guarantee your listeners one thing that if they commit to listening to your episode, they're going to be a better human, what's that going to be?
Yeah, if you listen to my episode, I guarantee you're gonna say, well, what the heck do I have any excuse for whatever is holding me back from doing anything possible? Because I'm that guy who overcomes any adversity and any obstacle.
And that is exactly what our show's about. The slogan's even overcome adversity, achieve success. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a truly remarkable episode with Kijuan right after this. Ever worry about leaving valuables in your car? This is the solution you've been waiting for. Console Vault has been around for more than 20 years. It is an in-vehicle safe that goes in the console of your truck, SUV, Jeep, and even some automobiles. What happens is you take the plastic junk that the manufacturer installed, take a couple screws out, and then you replace it with a steel welded on 6 sides vault that goes in, gets screwed back into the frame of your vehicle. And if someone were to try to break in, they need like a welding torch to get into it. So basically, you can put your wallet, valuables, protection items, or anything else you need, whether you run to the gym, the grocery store, leave your car overnight. Console Vault is an amazing solution. They have different types of locks with digital combination, biometrics, And at the end of the day, again, someone would pretty much need to steal your vehicle to be able to access what's inside the console vault. So it's a great deterrent and way to protect your valuables and peace of mind. Check it out at consolevault.com. And when you use promo code REMARKABLE at checkout, you will save at least 10%, if not more, on your order. And sometimes they even throw in free shipping too with that promo code REMARKABLE. So I'm David Pasqualone, host of the Remarkable People podcast. I am not just telling you about Console Vault because they're an affiliate, but because I personally use the product for years, have used the product since 2005, and will continue to use the product in any vehicle I can. Enjoy yours and leave notes in the comment section below once you see how great Console Vault is. All right, Kijuan, our listeners and I are pumped to hear your story. So everything that happens to us in life, as we all know, good, bad, ugly, pretty, or pretty ugly, it all makes us the human we are today, right?
Yeah.
So tell us your story.
Yeah, my story is one of, like I said, overcoming adversity, resilience, just to fight, just to fight back. And this all gleamed from a horrific motorcycle accident on May 5th, 2017, a day I'll never forget, except for the accident. And I'll tell you how I forgot the accident in just a second. But I was in the United States Air Force as an in-flight refueling specialist, and that's where you refuel planes in midair. Coolest job I've ever known and would want to do, to say the least. But it was a job that I did and took, great pride in, first and foremost, because I was serving my country. I didn't realize I would serve as long as I did, but I fell in love with the job. And that's the thing about it. And so that day, which was actually a Friday, Cinco de Mayo, for some who are, paying attention to that, I had to go to work that day and that night. And so before I went to work, because I was also a reservist at the time, I did 4 years active, and then I got off of active duty to go live the good life of the reserves and then just travel and not have to deal with the desk jobs of the active duty and other things. But anywho, I had a business at the time called Kiwi Enterprise. Kiwi is actually my nickname, but actually was also my call sign when I was in the Air Force. And a call sign for the Air Force or military is for air crew members. So for those who are not, quite yet connecting with what a call sign could potentially be, think of Top Gun, the movie Top Gun. And you had Maverick and all those guys in there. That Maverick is his call sign. You know what I mean? It's not his real name. So,
Yeah.
that's where all of that comes from. But it's a part of the aircrew world. And so that was my call sign, Kiwi, mainly because people couldn't say my name. Kiwan is not the easiest name to say, especially based off the spelling. It's a unique spelling, but me personally, I think it's pretty simple. But hey, whatever, it's just one of those. So, anywho, Kiwi Enterprise was the business. I did social media marketing, website design and management, and photography. So on this particular day, May 5th, 2017, I was actually shooting some photos for a website that I was managing, which was actually my church's website, to be quite frank. But I had took my car home and went and got my motorcycle this day because it was so nice outside. I live in North Carolina, and spring days in North Carolina can be one of two things. You can have really great weather, like this day was, or you could have really rainy weather. So, thankfully, it was not the latter. But I did the I did swap out vehicles and went over to my church and took the photos. But from my apartment to where my church is was only like 10 minutes maybe of a ride. And for my motorcycle, as you guys know, that's not a long ride at all. It's like you just got on the bike and you're hopping right back off. And I was not about to put it back up on such a nice day like this. So I said, well, where can I go? And I went to a local lake in North Carolina called Jordan Lake. Now, from my church to Jordan Lake was about 30 minutes of a ride. Now this was a good ride. And on some back windy, curvy roads, and it was really nice. Very
Yeah,
peaceful.
beautiful. Best riding, right? Those country
Yeah,
roads.
very nice. Peaceful, man. And so just me and the trees, to be honest, because this is the middle of the day and nobody's out. And
Yeah.
so I go there, sit there for a while, and then I realize, oh shoot, I gotta go to work. I gotta go grab my stuff and swap out vehicles and all that stuff, whatever. So I take off back down the road, but now, since I've wasted some time, people are now driving. So so I'm approaching an intersection, and I don't know what made this car pull out in front of me. I didn't care to find out, to be honest, because that only probably would have made it worse. But a silver Honda Accord pulls out in front of me as I'm running 55 miles an hour down this highway, 751 here in North Carolina. And yeah, this is the part where I told you guys I don't remember anything about the accident, because once I impacted that car, it was lights out.
Mhm.
The I was in a coma from there. And from there until June the 6th, everything was told to me about what happened from those moments on.
And just so people understand, you basically T-boned the silver Accord, correct? Because they pulled out in front of you.
Well, it's kind of like a back quarter panel.
Got you.
So it wasn't quite T-bone, but back quarter panel, yes.
But you were doing 55 miles an hour.
55, man.
Yeah. And
I
ladies and
wasn't stopping.
yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, if you know anything, force equals mass times acceleration. That is a huge amount of force and pressure. So talk about that. I know you don't remember it,
Yeah.
but I'm sure were there any witnesses that explained to you what happened, and then take us through your journey of healing and to today.
Well, the witnesses that were there at the scene of the crime, the only thing they kind of talked about to the officers were they saw me coming, so they don't know why he didn't. And I'm glad there were witnesses, because he easily could have left and, hit and run, whatever you want to call it. But I've heard this story way too many times with motorcyclists where they get hit and left, basically left for dead, to be honest, because you don't know if that person is conscious, you don't know if they can walk, whatever. You know,
Yeah, I picked a guy up in 2000 or 2001. There was a motorcycle that got hit in downtown Pensacola.
mhm.
People just left him there for dead,
Yeah,
totally unconscious, bike on top of him, and the scumbags took off.
yep, yeah,
So,
man, it happens way too often,
yep.
and so I'm glad they were there. The two witnesses, thank God they were there. And all I know is from the injuries, I had to be life flighted. Like they were like, there ain't no way he needs to be driven in a car because he might not make it." And my face was crushed in, literally crushed in, and I did have on a full face helmet because that's all I ever wear. I can't ride without it, or when I did anyway, because I don't breathe that well with all that airflow. But anyway,
Yeah. And that probably, I mean, you're going to tell the story, but
yeah.
a full face helmet, I remember buying my first motorcycle,
Hmm.
and my uncle made me promise that no matter what I get for a bike, buy the most expensive and highest quality helmet I
Yeah.
could.
Hmm.
And I think my first helmet cost more than my first motorcycle.
Good Lord.
Yeah, well, it was back in the
Yeah,
90s. It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
a
no.
$450 Shoei helmet and a
Oh
400,
yeah.
$400 motorcycle.
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure. I definitely had a nice expensive one.
Do you think that
And
saved your life?
oh, for sure. There's no
Yeah.
way I'm sitting here talking to you without it.
Yeah.
That, among other things. You know what I mean? But, my face being crushed in, so I have literally two metal plates in my head. If you can see the little curve right there,
Yes.
yeah, that's where a metal plate is from my skull fracture. And also, you see the scar here?
Yes, sir.
That's where they cut me across the top from ear to ear to
And ladies and
relieve.
gentlemen, for those of you listening to the podcast, Kiwan's pointing to his basic temple and the
Mhm.
spot above his ear. So that 4 or 5 inch section, that's where you got two plates, you said?
That's, well, for sure the front part is where, like, the front of my forehead, maybe about a third of the way, or a half of the way across my left eyebrow is where that plate starts. And so that's the plate in the front for the frontal lobe. But I also have one forming the roof of my mouth, helping form the roof of my mouth to bring
Oh,
it back
okay.
outward. So those are the two plates. And then, like I said, when they cut me open, it was actually for relieving the swelling on my brain because my brain was swollen and they had to do it in order to, relieve the stress and stuff and swelling that was there. But also my right eyelid was popped out because the bottom portion of that eyelid was torn off.
Hmm.
And so I also am 100% blind for those who don't know or and are listening. And I am wearing shades for those who are listening and not being able to see me. So I do wear shades pretty much all the time, especially for sunlight because my eye is very sensitive to light. And then my smell is gone because they had to do reconstructive surgery to my face when they repaired it, surgically repaired it. And then I do taste though. I do taste. There is some good about it. I do still have
Yeah,
my taste. And food does taste good.
that's
But
awesome.
but the teeth were damaged very badly. I had to do about $20,000 worth of dental work, and that's after insurance paid their part. So that's probably the cheapest part of my accident. I had a tracheotomy, which is, where they put the holes in your neck to allow you to breathe. Because like with my face being crushed in, I wasn't getting a lot of air through my nose, through my nostril, and or nasal passage, shall I say. And then my spine was crushed and basically, I mean, destroyed, pretty much destroyed because it's 2 rods and 12 screws from L4 to T2. So I'm surgically infused with 2 rods and 12 screws right before you get into paralyzation of the waist down. Like literally, if it would have went any lower, L5, I'm done. And so I literally just got right above that. I have injury on my left hip, so I'm not sure exactly if they replaced anything or not. But I do know my right femur, which is the largest bone in your body, which is the thigh bone, that was broken in half, literally, and a compounding fracture, or a compound fracture, excuse me.
Hmm.
And I had to get that medically removed in metal rod. And then my tibia on my left leg, which is your shin bone, that was that's a metal rod all the way from my knee all the way down to the ankle. My fibia on the right leg, I believe, was fractured, but I don't think they took that out. But I do know there's a screw in my right foot, and my right foot is now a whole different size than the left. So my left foot is still the same size as it was before the accident, which was a 10, and my right foot is an 11 wide. So literally a whole size up.
Yeah,
So yeah,
man. So you had an accident that, truly could have taken your life in 15 different ways.
yeah.
And you go, this happens, just for the record, did the insurance companies pay you or did they do the normal insurance company scumbag thing and fight like they didn't want to pay?
Well, so two
And you
things
don't have to go
happen.
into detail for
Oh no, no,
personal or
two.
legal reasons, but I'm
Yeah,
just
no,
saying,
I'm
I
done with the
hate to hear.
legality, so it's cool. But the one thing that was kind of interesting was when I, because like I told you, I was in a coma for a month. So when I woke up, I didn't even know I had a lawyer. Like I'm in a freaking coma. My mom has POA, power of attorney, and she's got me a lawyer, and I'm like, wait, what? I got a what? For what? Like, I don't even know what's going on yet. And so, anywho, we get around to talking about this stuff, and I'm like, well, who's paying for all of this? What happened? And so finally they say, well, his insurance is going to pay for, of course, the total loss of the bike, and they're going to give me the max coverage for, the bodily injury is what they call it, I believe.
Yes, and
And
those are
his
so low.
his was 100,000, thankfully, which is close because some people only get 25,000.
Yep.
And so it was 100,000. Okay, great. But do you know my bill was 985,000? Like, so what am I gonna
Yeah.
do with this 100?
Yeah.
That cancels out, you know that, right?
Yeah, you're
And
gonna
so,
owe money and you didn't even
yeah,
work. So that didn't even pay for anything.
no. And so I'm like, dude. who are you? What kind of lawyer are you that you're making me only get 100,000? He's like, oh no, no, that's not the only thing we're getting. So what was the company's name? I think it was Cisco. I think Cisco. But anyway, we're gonna ask a company to take your legal fee. I mean, your hospital bill on as a write-off. And that's what ended up happening. So I didn't have to pay my hospital bill because they took it on as a write-off. So I did get the money.
That's super nice that they did
Yeah,
that.
because I was finna go nuts in that hospital. My heart rate is about to shoot back up. What do you mean? I got a 88 or yeah, $885,000 bill
Yeah.
after that 100,000.
Oh
So yep.
man. So okay, so now let's get to the part. So most people around the planet,
Hmm.
they have an accident like this, they live,
Yeah.
and live by meaning they're continuing to breathe,
Hmm.
and then they choose to just exist. They
Right.
they don't most people sadly statistically don't get over a life trauma like this.
Right.
But you didn't just give up. We were talking on our pre-call. You went on and you've done some pretty cool things. So talk about your life from that point forward.
Yeah, it's not easy for me to give up. I'm a very optimistic person, first and foremost, but also I would say I'm a person who thinks. I've always been a thinker, and I've had a moment where I was down before, nothing near this, magnitude, but back when I played high school football, I was getting ready to quit the team because they were punishing us for what somebody else was doing and would not fess up. And I'm like, why am I getting punished for this? I mean, we were running like dogs, okay?
And then you joined the military. That never happens
It
there.
never, ever, ever, ever. And so anyway, I am like ready to just let it go. And the guy beside me, I'm talking to a guy beside me. Funny enough, his name is Keon. My name is Kijuan. His name is Keon. And so I said, dude, I'm quitting. I'm done with this. I'm not finna keep running because somebody else has did this, blah, blah, blah. He's like, come on, dude. I'm sure it won't last much longer. He's like, if you could make this, you could do anything. And just the fact that he kept talking to me, and he was an upperclassman. He was a year ahead of me. I want to say he was a senior and I was a junior, I believe. And so anyway, the fact that he was even coaching me through that versus being like, hey man, I don't blame you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
I'm about to leave too. Hey, if you leave, I'll leave. But the fact that he kept, talking me through that kind of put me in a different mindset ever since that day, to be honest. Because there were things in the military that I was like, dude, I'm done. I'm out of here. Especially in boot camp and stuff. But I had that same mindset. If somebody else did it, so can I. And that's what ended up kind of getting me to understand that since I know I'm having to deal with this new life because I call this my new life journey. I know I have to deal with it. I know it. It's just going to be, it's inevitable. But what I am going to do is I'm going to live it to my fullest. That's one thing I do know. And that's all I've been doing. If you ask anybody who knows me, listen, I just got back from Italy last month. Okay.
Hmm.
I am living life to the fullest. I've downhill skied without sight. I have rock climbed without sight. Like I've been to Disney for a sports competition, all expenses paid because I was able to qualify without sight. You know what I mean? Like I've traveled across not just to Italy, but all over the country by myself without sight. You know what I mean? So when they say you can't, show them why you can. And that is my biggest one of my biggest quotes that I try to live on. When they tell you you can't, show them why you can. And so that's all I keep doing. Every time they say I couldn't do something, oh, you just cursed at me. Like, you just told me I couldn't do what? Oh, okay, I'm gonna show you. Hold on. And that's just me. in a sense. My whole genetic makeup is to not only prove doubters wrong, but to also show people who feel less than they once were, show them that they can do this too, or that they can do something similar as well. And I love talking to not just only youth, but anyone who's been, in some adverse situation. We have to understand that this is not the end. This is just the beginning of something new. I've met so many people that are so, impactful, so encouraging, uplifting. I mean, they're just so amazing. And I'm just like, dude, I thought I was doing something. And they're like, no, you are. You're just doing it in a different way than me. And that's when we have to understand. Don't compare yourself, be yourself. And that's one thing I look at.
I think that's amazing advice. And I'm typing in notes now because that's a great quote. Don't compare yourself, be yourself. In the
Hmm.
Bible, it talks about all over the dangers of comparison. And yet, that's
Hmm.
what our society, we're brainwashed to compare. And that's just Satan. So I'm really intrigued because our whole podcast is about not just what our guests were able to achieve or overcome,
Hmm.
but breaking it down to the practical steps of how they did it so our listeners can too. And that's what your whole message is. So let's talk about the nitty gritty. Obviously, when you decide to ski, there's problems that need to be solved,
Hmm.
right? There's creative ways that you need to overcome obstacles. So, is there a process that you not only follow to start unpacking solutions, but how do you keep yourself motivated when people are saying you can't do it? In fact, that might motivate you. But what do you do to motivate yourself, Kiwan, when you get to the point where you're thinking, man, how can I do this? So I know I asked three questions in one, but let's talk about that to help the people who, man, they're so talented and they're so gifted, yet
Hmm.
they've been lied to and made to believe they can't. So
Yeah.
what do you say to those people?
Listen, usually, usually when something or someone is telling you not to do something, it's because they're afraid. Not because you're afraid, it's because they're afraid. They like to impose their thoughts on you. And the biggest thing, I had to learn that early, not just because of this accident. I learned that early in my military career, in my football career. Like it was just one of those things. Oh, he's gonna get hurt. Oh, he shouldn't do that. No, no, you don't. He don't need to play football. He's too small. What? Are there not other small people in the world? Like, and so I I was one of those people that wanted to defy everything. And it's not to say I'm wanting to be a person who just outright, I'm never listening to what anybody says. No, it's to say, I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm gonna try this for myself. Why can't it be that simple? You know what I mean? Why do you always have to inflict your negative thoughts on me? Just allow me to think for myself for a second. And that's a lot of things I had to do. If it's something comfortable, they don't have nothing to say. But as soon as you start thinking about stepping outside that comfort zone, oh boy, here come on. How you gonna ski and you can't see a thing? I said, I don't know, but they're offering up to me, so obviously they know something. I'm just gonna go visit. I'm not paying for anything. I'm going to see what it's about.
Yep.
And with the open-mindedness that I had, that was what got me through it. Because trust me, I honestly I started listening to the doubters, the naysayers, all of the negative people, these negative thoughts, and I started to formulate my own. And I'm like, you know what? It is cold up there. They're like, I'm creating stuff that they didn't even say. You know
Yes.
what? It is a far place to go. I never have been to Stowe, Vermont, so I don't know what's up there. Ain't no point in me going. Instead of just going to visit and understanding that this could be an amazing adventure. And it was. But I almost talked myself out of it listening to other people. And
Yeah.
so when I went on that trip to Stowe, Vermont, for those who know about that area, it's a really nice ski resort up there, by the way. Most rich, wealthy people go up there. Like, for example, the reason I say that, Chris Rock has I guess you could say a lodge or resort, whatever, something up there on that mountain,
Hmm.
and you could see it from the where we were skiing. You could actually see it. So wealthy people go up there. And anywho, I when I was up there and skiing, first off, we had, they talked to us about the different things we were going to do, what to be paying attention to. They took you to the little bunny slope or whatever you want to call it. And I've been on skis once before, but I could see then. So I do remember concepts. I remember the pizza and the French fry and all that stuff. I remember pizza, French fry. I remember all that. But what I don't know how to do is do it while I can't see. And then they taught me the amazing steps of don't pay attention to the people behind you. They're supposed to pay attention to you. Because I was always worried about somebody running me over.
Hmm.
That was what was in my mind,
That's a
in my
common fear in skiing. Yes.
yeah, in my subconscious. And the lady who was teaching me, I wish I could remember her name. She was such an amazing person as far as a instructor. She was just like, "Hey, what are you thinking about?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She was like, "It just seems like you keep thinking about something because when you look, you like looking for something as if something's coming your way." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just trying to make sure I'm not gonna get hit by anybody." She's like, "Oh, you're not supposed to pay attention to who's behind you. You're supposed to worry about what's in front of you." I was like, "Oh."
It's a great life lesson, isn't it?
It is. It's almost like that one quote. Stay, if you're always in the rearview mirror, it's harder to see what's in front of you. You know what I mean? That's why that front window is larger than the rear view mirror. So we're supposed to look forward way more than we're supposed to look behind us. And so, anywho, she told me that stuck. But also, what stuck with me was the simple fact that I'm there to learn from the instructions, not to be like, okay, I got it. Don't worry, I got this. I've done it before. I got it. No, she's trying to teach me. And man, by the I think it was the day before the last day, I was coming down the big slope. I went all the way to the top. Not once, but twice.
Now, the
And
practicality, did you have some kind of like, was there a noise device? Was someone you were following? Were you on a rope? How did you practically achieve that?
the instructor, well, at first it was just her talking to me. But then she put like on my helmet that you wear, she put a earpiece on a tape to my helmet, and it had a boom microphone so that I could talk to her as well. So I could hear her and I could talk to her and she could hear me.
Beautiful.
And so she was skiing backwards down the freaking slope, man, talking to me, telling me what to do. And I'm like, how are you doing this, woman?
Yeah.
That's how good of a ski. But some people, that's all they do. They live on the slopes. You know what I mean? And so she was just so good, man. And I mean, golly, I did. There was one time I came down the slope and I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop over here. She's like, what do you mean? We're at the bottom. I was like, what? Dude, I didn't even know we were at the bottom. We had went all the way down, and I was feeling so good, but I was like, okay, I think my leg's getting a little tired. Let me just stop right here. And she was like, we're at the bottom. I was like, oh, no wonder I'm not sliding anymore.
That's fantastic. That's
Mhm.
fantastic. And another thing is, you had to have a lot of trust in
Hmm.
her to listen to her and trust her that you were going down that hill. And in New England, if people aren't from New England, skiing in New England, there's very narrow trails and they're steep and icy. On the West
Mm.
Coast, you
Hmm.
may have wide open, powdery, California snow.
Yeah.
That's not New England. It's
Yeah.
steep and hard and fast. So you had, I don't know if you even knew the difference, but there is much less room for error where you were at. So talk about the trust. Like, I mean, you literally put your life in her hands. Did you realize it at that point, or were you just winging it?
Oh yeah, no, trust me.
Mm,
I know what because being somebody who's visually impaired, trust is always in play. Whether it's me getting in the Uber, whether it's me getting on the airplane, whether it's me just walking to get something to eat with someone, I have to find a way to do it. So either like one time I was in the airport, Tampa, I think I was in Tampa's airport, and I needed to get something to eat. And what I didn't know was that my flight had changed. That's what I didn't know.
mm,
And so luckily the gate that I was sitting at where we were originally in air quotes supposed to be flying out of had changed. And luckily the guy that was sitting beside me, he said, "Hey, excuse me, sir." I said, "Who, me?" He was like, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" He's like, "Did you know that the flight was changed?" I was like, "What flight?" I need you to be more specific. And he told me the flight to Raleigh Durham is changed. I said, no, I didn't know that. Do tell.
yeah.
And these are the things that I need help for. If that man never told me, how would I have known? Because it didn't even come up on my app.
Yeah.
Why didn't it pop up on my app? I'm supposed to get notifications and alerts about that stuff, but it didn't even pop up. And not only that, I asked for one of the people at the airport, that same airport, to take me to the restroom. He takes me to the restroom right before I get ready to go to the next gate that they changed it to. He takes me to the family restroom. And then I said, "All right, I'll be back out." And so, I lock the door, whatever, go use the bathroom, come right back. I open the door, and usually they're like, "All right, let's go." And I'm like, "Hey, you there?" This guy left me.
Mm,
What are you leaving for? you, I'm not going in the maze. I'm going in the bathroom. Like,
hmm
what in the world? And so, literally, I am standing outside of the family restroom for probably all of 5 minutes, like literally 5 minutes, not just a made up number, the all of 5 minutes. And I'm just standing there. When he got back, I was so livid. I was like, when he said, "I'm coming, sir," I looked at him with the most foul face you could ever look at somebody with. My military almost came out.
Yeah.
So yeah, trust is a plays a part in a lot of things I do. So definitely at
Mm,
that moment, because now this could be physically, it's physically demanding, but it's also like there is a potential for harm. You know what I mean?
hmm
So yeah, it's always a trust factor because maybe you fall over. I caused myself to fall twice in like you talk about the powder up there in Stove. They had just got some fresh snow, so when you stepped off to the side, it was very deep.
Yes. And you can't
Yes,
barely walk through it.
you can't, dude. I was it.
It's like quicksand.
I went in so far. I was like, "Ow!" She was like, "Oh," and so she's like, "You're gonna have to pop those skis off because I can't help you." And that's how far in I had fell. Man, I'm telling you, that snow had to be every bit about 2.5, 3 feet deep.
hmm
I was like, "Holy crap, dude!" But yeah.
So when you're talking to people who have either lost their sight
Mhm.
or they have a loved one that has lost their sight.
Mhm.
What are some things, because I'm sure there's dark moments and there's moments of doubt even in your own head. What are some of the things that have encouraged you and got you through it during those dark times?
Man, oh man. Those are moments that you just can't you kind of just have to go based off of what transpired because I've talked to people who were also motorcycle accident survivors that lost their sight, similar to me. My book is kind of what saved their life because I talk about the hardships that I dealt with going through that hospital visit and all that stuff. And they either had someone read it to them or they listened to it. And it saved their life. Actually a person out of Florida that happened to them. And then you have it was a young lady, God, I can't remember her name now, but she used to play basketball. 6'5", number one prospect coming out of Georgia. And she lost her eyesight her freshman year in college. She just knew she was going to the WNBA. You know what I mean? Like when you talk to people like that and they just know they were going somewhere, and luckily she still had that competitor's, mentality. She's like, I'm not gonna let this hold me down. And I was like, that's it. That's the mindset you need. It's based on people's perspective and their situation, because again, the guy who had the motorcycle accident, he was ready to take it. He was ready to end it all. But she still had a fighter's chance in her mind. And that's where that competitive spirit kicked in for her. And I mean, that girl, she's doing some great things. She loves music just like I do. You can see behind me in those in YouTube land, Cam, but for those who are on the audio podcast, I have a drum set behind me that I've been playing since I was 7. And so, I've been playing drums since I was 7 years old, and I love them. Love them. I'm actually getting ready for I guess you call it a talent show, but they're calling it a showcase at the Durham VA this coming week, actually. So I'm getting ready for that, and that's awesome. I'm so excited.
Nice. That is great. Man, you have to have 2 feet, 2 arms, and I mean, like you're coordinating everything with your brain, and now you're taking away your eyesight. That's insane talent. I give you props, my friend.
Thanks.
I can't play the drums with my sight. So now let me do this. What is next? It's always about a vision and
Mhm.
having that mindset, that right perspective. What's next for you?
Next for me, and I'm glad you said the word vision because that's my quote. I may have lost my sight, but I did not lose my vision. And the reason I put it that way is because my vision was always to help others, whether that was in the military, whether that was on a sports team, whether it's now. Like I do professional resilience speaking and coaching. So that's what's next for me. I'm a speaker. I'm a coach. I do it. I mentor. I'm an ambassador for the Air Force Wounded Warriors program. I kind of do some of everything. And the thing about each one of them, though, is that I'm helping. I'm giving back, and that's what I've come to do, and I'm going to do because that's just what my heart has been led to do. So that's what's next for me.
Well, I've enjoyed spending time with you, Kiwan, and I know that this is going to reach and help people all over the world, whether it's themselves. Because, I mean, even if someone didn't lose their eyesight, I'm sitting here, I haven't worked out since 2018, and now I'm even more. What's my excuse? Right? Like, what's
Yeah.
my excuse? What you're working around and skiing and doing all sorts of amazing things. And I'm like, oh, I hurt my shoulder. You know what I mean? So it's super inspiring to me, and I know many of our listeners. So thank you.
Yeah.
If someone wants to reach you, we'll put all the links in the show notes. But for just the audio, what's the best way for someone to reach you and continue the conversation?
Yeah, the best way to reach me is probably my website. Go to ameymotivation.com. That is AMEY motivation.com. I have all my YouTube, my Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Everything's on there as well as my book, which is called Don't Focus on Why Me From Motorcycle Accident to Miracle. But that can also be found on Amazon, Kindle, Audible, as well as Apple. And then if you want to book me as a speaker, you can go on that same website, amymotivation.com, and you can book me as a speaker as well.
Awesome. So let's do this to close the show. Any final thoughts you have, any encouragement to our listeners? I'm just picturing someone who's rightfully so. They had a terrible accident. They're in bed. The doctors are doing the doctor thing, giving them no hope. But what would you say to someone who's in bed but still has life?
Yeah, listen, you might have just found yourself in a whole new situation, like I found myself on June the 6th, 2017, after that motorcycle accident. But what I also found myself saying and telling myself is that my situation does not define who I am. I define who I am.
Amen. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, remember, reach out to Kijuan if you have any questions or want to continue this conversation. Book him for a speaking encouragement. If you haven't purchased his book yet, go to his website, go to Amazon or other media sources and check it out. And also, if I can help you in any way, shoot us an email. You can go to my website, davidpasqualone.com, and reach out. We want to help you any way we can. And other than that, Kijuan, it's been a true honor, my friend. Thank you for being here today.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, David.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we love you. Share this with your friends and family so we don't, not just so we get more popular, but so we help as many people as possible. And like our slogan says, don't just listen to the amazing information that Kijuan brought you today, but do it. Repeat it each day. Form those good habits so you can have a great life in this world, but most importantly, in eternity to come. So I'm David Pasqualone. This is our remarkable friend, Kijuan Amey. And Kijuan, thank you again.
Yes.
Ciao, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you in the next episode.
The Remarkable People Podcast. Check it out. The Remarkable People Podcast. Listen, do, repeat. For life. The Remarkable People Podcast.